Welcome to Alive and Well, the podcast for the new era of high achievers. You're done burning out, and you're ready to lead, work, and live in a rhythm that honors both your brilliance and your body. I'm your host, Michelle Grosser. I'm a trial attorney turned nervous system strategist, and I've lived the burnout story. I know what it's like to chase your goals at the expense of your well-being. And I also know it doesn't have to be that way. Here, we're redefining success. It's where productivity feels peaceful, boundaries feel like freedom, and energy comes from within. Each week, I'll share practical tools for nervous system regulation, time mastery, and somatic strategies so you can show up with clarity, calm, and confidence in every part of your life. Because you, my friend, were given a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. So here's to life and living it fully. This is the path to feeling alive and well. Let's dive in. Hey, you guys, welcome back to Alive and Well. Today on the show, we're going to talk about something that I know you've felt. It's that deep, simmering exhaustion that sometimes doesn't seem to go away no matter how much we get done, no matter how early we go to bed, how early we wake up, how, color-coded our calendar is. Burnout, right? Not even the crash and burn, like meltdown in the parking lot kind of burnout, but I'm talking about the high functioning kind of burnout, the kind of burnout where we're still showing up and we're still smiling on the Zoom calls and we're still hitting the deadlines and seemingly holding it all together on the outside, but on the inside, it feels like we're unraveling. I've definitely been there. And what I want to do today is I kind of want to share with you guys some of the shifts that really helped me recover from that space when I was in that space, believing that they're going to be helpful for you too, because you guys know me, I'm all about the productivity hacks and all of the things. But until our nervous system is regulated, none of that is really going to be able to take root or have much of an impact, especially sustainably, right? We need a way of living, a way of working, a way of leading that doesn't cost our body or our peace or our joy. Okay, so let's get into it. I kind of want to talk about what burnout really is to start, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions and myths around burnout. I think sometimes we think that we're burned out because we've been doing too much. But burnout is really about doing too much for too long while your nervous system is stuck in a chronic stress response. So you've lost access to true regulation and restoration and the ability to kind of recharge and repair. So at its core, burnout is actually quite biological, right? Our nervous system wasn't designed to be on 24/7. It's designed to flexibly shift between different states. So we need to be able to have an activation in our nervous system, some of that go, go, go energy when needed. And we also need to be able to shift daily back to a place of restoration when our body feels safe enough to do so. But for those of us who have been doing all the things, right? Your typical high achievers, we can tend to live stuck in sympathetic overdrive. So stuck in a fight or flight response, or it's been too much and our system is overwhelmed and we're actually trying to get through the day, stuck in a dorsal vagal collapse, a shutdown kind of freeze and fawn response without even realizing it. And there's a cumulative wear and tear from experiencing prolonged stress. We call it our allostatic load. And when that load exceeds our body's ability to recover, our system just starts to break down, right? And how does that manifest? It shows up in so many different ways. It can show up our sleep getting disrupted, or maybe it feels like our energy is just tanking, right? Maybe we wake up exhausted, or maybe we hit that wall at 2 p.m. and it's really hard to get through the afternoon. Maybe we find that our patience is just shot, right? Our fuse is so short. Maybe decision fatigue kicks in and we have a hard time in our executive functioning. Maybe we just kind of feel flat and joy feels out of reach. all of these different ways in which it can, in which this allostatic load, this cumulative wear and tear from prolonged stress can show up in our life and in our body. And I think it can be really easy to kind of blame ourselves or, question what we're doing wrong or tell ourselves that we really just need to be more disciplined or get more organized or try harder. But I'm here to encourage you today, guys. This isn't a you problem. This is actually a system problem, right? Internal systems and external systems. And today I want to walk you through these 4 key shifts that are really going to help you break the burnout cycle at the root. Okay, so the first shift, let's get into it. The first shift that really helped me recover from burnout is I had to stop performing my value. And guys, I'll be honest with you, this is still something that I am working through. God and I are still working through this together. This one hits really deep for me. And I think it's probably true for a lot of you. I know it's true for a lot of those of you that I work with, either in a one-on-one capacity or inside the Burnout Recovery Blueprint. Because I think especially us high capacity, high achieving, do it all, get it all done women, we're raised, and so much of this was subliminal and subconscious and not overt, right? But we were raised to believe that our worth is tied to our output. And that translates into adulthood in so many ways, right? We value, our value comes from having a clean house. Our value comes from having well-behaved kids. Our value comes from having highly satisfied clients. Our value comes from being always available. And we kind of internalized this equation of the more I do, the more value I have, right? The more I do, the more value I have. So what do? We overfunction and we take on all the invisible labor and we say yes to all the things and we try to be the glue. But here's the science. When your nervous system is in a chronic sympathetic state, fight or flight, go, 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 it perceives your constant overdoing as survival, right? It doesn't see it as being helpful or being compassionate or being competent or what have you. It sees you going from morning to night, always on, as survival, right? You're running from something. You're you have to get all these things done or something bad's going to happen. And your nervous system doesn't read that as ambition. It reads it as urgency, and urgency is unsustainable. So burnout begins the moment that our nervous system starts to confuse worth with work. And I'm going to say that again because I think it's, I just want us to get a handle on this. Burnout begins, the root of burnout for so many people that I work with is when they subconsciously start confusing worth with work. So try to just catch the micro moment as it comes up, probably today, but maybe in the next couple days, of the shoulds, right? I should really help her with that, right? I should really take this on. I should really stay late. I should really, say yes to hosting this. Well, I should, and just pause and ask yourself hey, is this feeling of obligation? Is this yes, right? Coming from a place of safety, or is it coming from a place of survival? Am I doing this because it's a full body yes, and I want to be a part of this, and it means a lot for me to participate, and it's aligned with my values and my calendar and my bandwidth and my family and all of those things? Or am I doing it from a place of survival because I don't want to let someone down or disappoint someone, or I think that I owe it to someone, or what have you, right? Is it coming from a place of worthiness and wholeness and being grounded and present? Or is your yes coming from having to subliminally, subconsciously prove something about yourself, right? That you're equipped, or that you're helpful, or that you participate, or that whatever it is. And inside of Burnout Recovery Blueprint, we actually spend a good amount of time untangling these narratives, right? We all have different narratives like this, different paradigms, different ways in which we are seeing ourselves and the world and ourselves in the world that we're probably not even aware of. Because when we stop performing our value, we actually create space to live from it. And that makes such a difference. So that's the first shift. The second shift that really helped me recover from burnout is that I had to learn to make rest non-negotiable. 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 That doesn't mean like I rest when my work is done. I rest when I have time. I rest when there's an opening in my calendar. I rest when there's not a lot of stuff going on at my kids' school. Rest, non-negotiable. And I know, and I get it, and I understand it's easier said than done. But I really had to shift my mindset around rest not being a luxury or a reward, right? It is a physiological requirement. Just like I hydrate my body and I nourish my body and I move my body, I must rest my body. My parasympathetic nervous system and yours, right? The nickname for that system is actually our rest and digest state. When we are resting, that state comes online. And that's when so many other systems in our body do the things that they have to do, right? Only when we're in parasympathetic nervous system, when we're in our rest and digest state, that's when our immune system repairs. That's when our hormones regulate. That's when our brain clears metabolic waste, right? Hello, mental clarity. So sometimes we struggle with our immune system, or sometimes we know we have hormonal imbalances, or sometimes we feel like we're walking through life in this brain fog. And it's so much of it is because we're not giving our body a chance to get back to baseline stress level, enter into our parasympathetic nervous system, and have the ability for all of these other systems to come online, right? No rest, no reset. That's just the truth. And here's what's so wild is that for so many of us, and I'm going to include myself in this because this has been true for me for so long, resting feels unsafe, right? And I had a really hard time for a long time wrapping my head around rest feeling unsafe. I'm like, of course it doesn't feel unsafe. Like I'm sitting in my house, it's Saturday afternoon. Like it's not unsafe. Like my body is safe. I'm just trying to sit on the couch. But holy moly, did my body perceive rest as unsafe, because that showed up in me trying to rest and feeling restless, right? Trying to rest and actually feeling more anxious, trying to rest and being so uncomfortable that I'd, pick up a book and couldn't even focus on reading it because my brain was just going through all of the other things that I quote unquote should be doing instead, right? I could not just be where my feet were. I was always thinking about all the other things that had to be done, or that I quote unquote should be doing, or my family needed me to do, or work needed me to do, or, ways I could get ahead. And my body perceived all of that as rest being unsafe, right? If I rested, I was missing out on something. If I rested, someone was going to think I was lazy, right? If I was resting, I wasn't being productive. And all of those are lies. But my body was so used to hustling and, being on go mode and everything being urgent and having to create constant output, that stillness and slowing down and rest and pleasure and joy and all of these things actually triggered discomfort for me. So I actually started with, I guess we could call them micro rests, but just these small pockets of rest and really titrating that slowing down and that stillness in my body. So sometimes it was just like, hey, I'm not going to go from one meeting to the next without even like a bathroom break in between, right? I'm going to schedule 5 minutes between meetings in my calendar. Or I'm not going to sit at my computer for lunch. I'm actually going to take my lunch and go sit on my front porch or on the balcony, or go sit outside at a park or something, away from my computer for 20 minutes. Or, I'm going to, after I shut down everything for work for the day, I'm going to actually lay in my office with my legs up the wall for 5 minutes before I leave the office and enter into like what is the dinner craziness, homework, all of that stuff, right? I'm not saying you guys have to meditate, for an hour and start this long thing that you probably don't have time for. But I'm saying there are ways that we can signal safety to your nervous system, but you've got to get started. Okay. Now the third one. The third shift that helps me recover from burnout has to do with boundaries. And in BRB, I teach that we have to have boundaries in 4 different areas, or 4 different categories, if you will. And one of those is our bandwidth. We have to have boundaries around our bandwidth. Burnout doesn't always start with the big stuff, you guys. So often burnout starts with these small little, it's a slow drip, right, of yeses that pile up until there's nothing left. There's no energy left. There's no time left. There's no patience left. There's no joy left. We're just so depleted, but we're still agreeing to take things on and do things and manage things and handle things beyond what we have the capacity for. Why? Because it feels safer to overgive and say yes and show up for everyone than to, God forbid, disappoint them. And that's where that fawning response really comes in, right? We talk about fight or flight. We talk about freeze, but there's a fourth stress response, the fawning response. It's actually a dorsal vagal response. So it's kind of tied to that freeze response where we people please to stay safe, right? And it's not a weakness per se. It's not like this flaw. It's actually this brilliant survival adaptation, one that I have run for years. And in the last decade, probably really breaking out of that survival adaptation of fawning and people pleasing and saying yes and just being a doormat and not having any boundaries has helped to heal my burnout probably more than anything else, because it really costs you your wellness every time you say yes and you want to say no. So the next time you're asked to take something on, right, and your bandwidth already feels kind of squeezed, just pause. Check in with your body, right? If you were to say yes, like imagine it, close your eyes and imagine yourself saying yes to taking this on. Before you respond, before you reply to the email, before you text back, what does it feel like in your body, right? Because if saying yes feels like tightness in your chest, if saying yes feels like weight on your shoulders, if saying yes feels like tension in your jaw, that's your system, you guys, telling you that this is actually a no. And again, inside of Burnout Recovery Blueprint, we really practice these nervous system based boundary setting so that our no doesn't come from a place of guilt, but it actually comes from a place where it's grounded in so much clarity. And then finally, the last shift that really helped me recover from burnout was learning how to reconnect with my body. I don't know how many of you can relate to this, but for most of my life, especially early adulthood, like my 20s into my mid 30s, I was someone who was not only so comfortable in my head, but was literally trained to be in my head, right? It's like you're in college and then I went to law school and then studying for the bar exam and then passing the bar and being an attorney. It's like I was just, and whatever that story looks like for you guys, is probably very similar. We're so comfortable being in our head. Let me come up with a plan. Let me make the checklist. Let me strategize this. Let me understand it. Let me gather more information. Let me intellectualize it, right? Burnout numbs us. So what happens is that we're so in our head and disconnected from our body that slowly we stop even realizing the most basic cues and signals from our body. We stop noticing, like when we're hungry and we work through lunch, right? We stop noticing our posture and we're kind of hunched over all day long. We stop noticing how we're breathing and we're just like in this shallow breathing all day long that's triggering a fight or flight response. We stop noticing any sort of desires or joy or things that light us up, and we stay in our head. We'll problem solve the heck out of it and we'll plan the heck out of it and we'll keep pushing through and we'll keep persevering. But our body is what holds the key to regulation. It is. We know that 80% of our nervous system's communication is bottom up. What does that mean? It means that 80% of the messaging going on in your body, in your nervous system, is originating in your body, sending signals to your brain. So if you are ignoring hunger cues, your body is sending stress to the brain. If your posture is all hunched over or very tense, right? Tension is what our body does when it doesn't feel safe. Our body is sending signals to our brain. Stress, right? If our breathing is quick and shallow, our body is sending information to our brain. We're in a stress response. All of these things originate in the body. And it's only when we reconnect with our body that we can literally retrain our brain to feel safe enough to come out of a stress response and back to baseline stress levels. So how can you start reconnecting with your body? Super simple. Simple, consistent, somatic connection changes everything, you guys. You can even try it now, right? Just putting your hand on your chest and noticing your breath, right? What's the temperature of your breath as you inhale and exhale? Can you feel your breath in through your nose, right? Down into your belly and then up as you exhale. What do you notice about where you're breathing? Are you breathing in your chest? Are you breathing with your diaphragm? Does your chest expand and contract as you breathe? Does your belly expand and contract as you breathe? Like just noticing the temperature on your skin, right? As you step outside, as you sit in the sunlight, taking a slow stretch, right? Just tracking the sensations, putting on a song and getting in your body and moving or dancing for just a minute. I'm telling you guys, don't overcomplicate this. It is simple, but this interoception, so this awareness of the internal sensations and processes of our body in and of itself brings so much regulation. And in Burnout Recovery Blueprint, we really, really build this muscle of interoception, this muscle of reconnecting with our body. So we don't just know about burnout, right? There's so much information out there. Like you can read all the books, you can listen to all the podcasts, you can like gather all the info. But until you actually put it into practice and take action and start embodying this stuff, it's going to be really hard for you to experience any relief or any healing. And that's really what I want you guys to take away today is that you're not burned out because you have like some flaw or some defect or you're broken or, you just need a 3-day vacation. You're burned out because you've been living disconnected from your body. You're burned out because you've been living disconnected from your boundaries and your limits. You're burned out because you've been disconnected from your nervous system's natural rhythms. And let me tell you something, this is actually good news because all of those things, right? Connection to your body, boundaries around your limits, your nervous system's natural rhythms, those are all rebuildable. So burnout is not your final chapter. You're not stuck in this, right? Into perpetuity. You don't just need a vacation. You actually need a blueprint for a life. Like this is a lifestyle thing. You need a blueprint for a life that doesn't require escaping from. And if you want support and strategy for rebuilding that blueprint, holy moly, would I love to have you inside the next cohort of Burnout Recovery Blueprint. We start again in early September for the fall cohort. So if you want to be a part of that, the kids are back in school. September, I feel like, is the second new year, right? Like as a changing of this season, it's a great time to start something new, put new habits into practice so that, we can really enter into the holidays and then 2026 or the following year, with so much healing and strength. So if that feels aligned for you, put that on your calendar. Stay tuned. I'm going to be talking more about it, obviously, as we head into fall, but the next cohort of Burnout Recovery Blueprint will be in September. And you're not alone in this, right? Your body knows how to heal. And that is such good news. All right. Thanks for being with me with this one. I love you guys so much. I will talk to you soon.
If you love Mommy's Podcast, leave a review.
Thanks for listening to Alive and Well. If today's episode resonated, would you do me a favor? Take 30 seconds and leave a 5-star rating and short review. It really helps to get this show out to other people just like you who could also use the information in this podcast. And if you're ready to take the next step in regulating your nervous system, download my free Nervous System Reset Guide. It's linked right in the show notes. Inside, you'll find simple, body-based practices to help you feel more clear, calm, and connected starting today. Make sure you're following the show so you don't miss out on what's coming next, because you were made to thrive. Fully alive, fully present and fully well. I'll see you soon.